After 8 years of anti-corruption sloganeering by a government headed by a retired army general, Nigeria seems to be headed the same way under President Bola Tinubu, who in the past few days has pulled the trigger on a number of high-profile heads of critical institutions and agencies, including the long-standing governor of the central bank. However, given the peculiar nature of the anti-corruption fight inherited from his predecessor, and with a number of grey areas dogging his own public profile, how sustainable can the war against corruption be going forward? Actually, Emenike was advisor to the immediate past chairman of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes and a one-time governorship candidate in Rivers State. We have him here now for a brief chat. Good to have you with us, sir. Now, what do you make of the anti-corruption drive of this new government? The Apex Bank governor, Emenike, has just been suspended, and of course reports indicate he has been taken into custody for questioning as well. What are your thoughts on this and for the prospect as well for Nigeria?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss this very, very important issue that's kept this country. Nigeria has been bleeding. We've been bleeding naira and kobo and dollars, and but there has been certain deliberate attempts to stop this drift into financial ignominy. Yes, we are a nation of laws, and it is said that no one is above the law. If you happen to contravene any of the letters of our laws, you will be brought, you should be and ought to be brought before the courts or competent authorities to prove your innocence, or you pay the penalty for the crime. But looking forward for this incoming administration, really it is one government. We have, it's only one government, but different people at the helms of affairs. I think it's just beyond sloganeering and showboating. There are specific things that this government has to put in place. Fighting corruption, it involves everyone. It involves the legislature, it involves the executives, it involves the judiciary, and as well it involves the civil society and citizens. You can tell recently when there has been tremendous gains made by civil society. If you recall the very important call-outs by people like Femi Falana, who called out the government that we are behind in like for the offshore, deep offshore production sharing contract, where we're losing billions over the years. That was the role of civil society. Others like HEDA, they call government out and they draw attention to government to areas that need intervention. But I believe it's a sustainable war. You can't fight it. You can diminish it and then make it a disincentive by depriving the people who engage in criminal activities and who are and as well as unlawful activities to fleece the national coffers.
I would like to find out from you. Where do we draw the line between proper anti-corruption crusade and political vindictiveness? Because most people over the years, dating back to the Obasanjo administration, a lot of people have always felt that the people that are always targeted, the high-profile names that are always brought to the fore, are people that go against the grain, are people that go against the government, as against a holistic anti-corruption campaign that seeks to probably indict and prosecute those that have probably involved themselves in financial malfeasance or political malfeasance, as the case may be.
You made a fantastic point, and that is the crux of the matter. From my experience over the years, working in this within the ecosystem of the anti-graft sector, you tend to see a lot of political interference. Even when the heads of the anti-corruption agencies or even law enforcement agencies, when they want to do their job, you will always get one phone call, one intervention from one place or the other, request sometimes asking you to look the other way, or probably saying, look, let's give them a soft landing, but I keep thinking, why are you climbing so high that you need to land softly? If you climb so high, you should fall. But that has been a problem, political interference, and working very closely with the anti-graft agencies, with the EFCC, under the chairmanship of an indefatigable crusader of anti-graft in the person of Senator Suleiman Abdulkwari, who was the chairman, immediate past chairman of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption. It is a leadership thing. Through his leadership, there was never a day he said to me, look, Ashley, go and do this and get this person off the hook. No, he'd always say, let's let the right thing be done. And he's, in fact, the anti-corruption ecosystem owe him quite a lot, because under his chairmanship of the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, we made so many gains, especially when it comes to our placements on the global fight against corruption. Okay, for example, you have recently we're grey listed on the Financial Action Task Force, where a lot of our recommendations from the first enhancement follow-up report came up. The only area we got full compliance rating was the areas of lawmaking, putting in place the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act, Proceeds of Crime Act, even as well as terrorism prevention. Nigeria also has mutual legal assistance.
Mr. Emenike, permit me to probably maybe try to realign this particular question of mine, because what I'm asking has to do with the fact that a lot of people get to see this act of anti-corruption crusade being a target to political enemies of the government, as we've seen time and time again, because a lot of people had question mark about the president himself, talking about Bola Ahmed Tinubu and all the monies about the billion van, and the fact that people didn't pursue it as far as they should pursue it. And you look at someone like an Emefiele with the fuel right now did not probably support the present government being attacked. We've seen this particular pattern time and time again. If you are not within the sphere of the political class at that moment in time, you get to be a target. And if you are in the good books of those in government, they get to look the other way. Where do we draw the line between actual anti-corruption crusade and political vindictiveness, so to speak?
Yeah, I agree. There has to be a line drawn, but really, what kind of line are we going to draw? There's always, like I said, you will always have political interference. Most heads of government would probably want to put their people in charge of this, and it is absolutely reprehensible. If you break the law, you need to face the law, and that is a challenge for this coming administration. I know there have been instances where you see it's not just the executive in power. There are the different arms of government. You see sometimes the judiciary, giving judgments that may raise the eyebrows, but at a closer look at it, you find out that everybody is involved. The lawyers are involved. Everybody is involved in probably letting somebody off the hook. What we need to do is, number one, let us set ourselves a target. We should be able to identify the number of cases, and that is one of our requirements on our placement under the Financial Action Task Force. We need to have statistics. How many people were actually invited, investigated, prosecuted, convicted, and for what crimes? Are they big ticket crimes? Where you might have somebody like maybe the Accountant General who's accused of over close to 100 billion naira graft, or is it the Yahoo boy who's involved in a love scam of possibly 1 million, 2 million? So the question you ask is very germane. It's on the mind and the mouths of everybody, and this administration needs to specifically address it, to say, look, whether you are my friend, crony, whether you're a politically exposed person or a relation or a closer associate, by the new laws, because there are amendments coming up, hopefully in the next 10th Assembly, there are laws that are going to amend, for example, the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act, where even close associates and relations of politically exposed persons will be held accountable. So I believe the instruments are there. What we need is political will. Without that, I don't think we will succeed.
Very good, Mr. Emenike. Now, any new government will need to do an audit of its institutions for policy implementation, especially fiscal responsibility, as it were. And we're seeing signs to that. But how sustainable is the current drive towards this? Going back past anti-corruption crusades in Nigeria?
Well, like I said, the policies need to be streamlined. Now, if you're looking at the anti-graft ecosystem, there are problems that we know and they need to be solved. Number one, you have institutions with overlapping mandates. So there was an example with the PNID investigation where the lawyer cried out that they had 3 different government agencies knocking at his door for the same file. So there's a need to look at the overlaps in terms of mandates. There's also an important aspect of fighting graft, which is engaging the public and where whistleblowing comes. And unfortunately, the 9th Assembly could not finish the issue with whistleblowing because whistleblowing in the wisdom of the 9th Assembly, the chairman of the committee, Senator Quarry, said, look, let's put whistleblowing inside an already existing agency and expand the mandate instead of creating another agency for whistleblowing. And that was done. We placed whistleblowing under the Public Complaints Commission. But time made that not possible, which I believe going forward, whistleblowing will be part of the 10th Assembly's priority anti-corruption legislations, as well as witness protection. Now, when witnesses come forth, I know there was a lot of things happening recently with an attempt to amend the ICPC Act recently, and they said they were trying to discourage witnesses and whistleblowing by increasing the penalty for false reporting. It is quite painful for somebody to sit down and then somebody cooks up a false report about you. But I do not think it will be that simple. False reporting is fictitious petitions. There are standards, and I'll give that to this current EFCC management under Abdul Rashid Bawa. They went as far as creating standard operating procedures for literally every aspect of their operations. So there's a procedure for handling whistleblowing, which they have an app called the Eagle Eye. And those are the things we need to be. There has to be a study. Let's ensure that overlaps are taken care of. Another issue is independence. Independence of the anti-graft agencies is critical, where there should not be political interference, or nor should they take directives from external forces. That is critical. But then it goes beyond just the independence of the chairman. It is the independence of the institution, meaning that the institution should remain accountable to the public, should be transparent in its operations, and not just that, it should be able to prosecute its mandate within a specific time with specific targets, measurable targets, which we believe the new administration will set for them.
All right, so let's talk about Nigeria's corruption index and Nigeria's corruption ranking. We've seen it's probably go down from 154 in the world to 150. But my question is, how do we improve our image in front of the world that gives that particular perception that Nigeria is really serious about fighting corruption within its borders?
That report by the Transparency International and other global organizations has been hotly contested by government because the indices of selecting and awarding marks were questioned. But nevertheless, once the report is out there, our image is very, very important. That is why you see Nigeria, taking the bull by the horn in his AML-CFT fight. The issues of dealing with money laundering, the issue of dealing with terrorism financing and proliferation of small arms and weapons. Nigeria has we've done quite well. What we have is the street level corruption where you have, if you go to a police station, you're most likely going to demand, someone will ask you to pay something, or you go to a hospital, or you go to the courts. If you go to court, you want a document, one file will get lost. There's a very simple solution. Digitize. Go digital. The world is already going digital. Money laundering has gone digital, where the days, I think if you're still thinking of brown envelopes, the brown envelope for bribe, the envelope is no longer, even if it's brown, it's not a digital brown envelope on somebody's laptop. There's a whole lot of graft going on with cryptocurrency and digital and virtual assets. That's where we should be looking at. Because even if we try to show that we're fighting corruption, the traditional levels of money laundering, somebody inflates a contract, steals money, goes and buys 50 estates, buys vehicles, you can actually trace those proceeds of crime. But now the world is no longer focusing so much on that. They're focusing on the application of digital, when people apply digital ledgers, distributed digital ledgers, cryptocurrency, especially using blockchain, they can move 2, 3, 4, 5 trillion naira. You don't know where it's going to, you don't know where it's coming from. That's where we should also be looking at. That's where the world is looking at. The EU is looking at it. If you check in the Finance Act 2023, there's a portion in the Act that says government should tax cryptocurrencies and other digital assets 10%. In the same vein, government is saying we have not legalized cryptocurrencies. So there are issues government needs to deal with now. We need to define our roadmap towards this anti-graft war. Are we going to stay old-fashioned, or are we going to upgrade and look at what the world is doing in terms of using cryptocurrencies to finance terrorism, using their virtual assets to dissipate, also to launder illicitly acquired wealth? That's the way forward.
Very good. And on that note, Mr. Ashley Emenike is an anti-corruption activist. I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on the current anti-corruption drive in the country. It's good to have you with us.